Recording started. Okay, cool.
Hello, good morning, happy Wednesday. It is Hump Day. Welcome to Insight Sports Talk with Johanna-Rosalye and my co-host joining me and back from a very long vacation, Ed Cole. Hi, Ed. How are you? Great to have you back.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a vacation, Sister Johanna-Rosalye. I was working. I was grinding to become a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, the greatest fraternity known to man. And I know Paul Richardson will dispute that, and we can fight about that later. But we're not going to do that on the show because we're talking sports. So hello, Miss Johanna-Rosalye. I missed you, sis.
I missed you too. I meant a vacation from Insight Sports Talk. That's what I meant.
Okay.
Anywho, that was your news to share. I was not going to go into that. That's personal news. If you wanted to share that or not, I was just, keeping that under wraps for you to decide how you deliver that. But yes, I've been great and just missing you and doing our show. We've been doing, ramping it up and getting ready to do some changes. And I have news for those who may not know, but we have launched Insight Sports Network Radio. You can find that on our website at insightsports.net. You can go on there. You'll be able to go ahead and see a small little logo, little section where you can go ahead and click play, where you will be able to go ahead and find our content, our current and previous shows. We will be bringing you some more awesome new content as well. So make sure you stay tuned to that. Make sure you follow us also on Twitter, where we'll give you the updates and what is currently playing on our website and our network radio. So a lot of great stuff coming and that will we continue to bring to you. So Ed, coming back to our show in Insight Sports Talk, we'll be talking NBA, we'll be talking some playoffs because we have the play-in tournament, which has started, and the playoffs is started and around the corner, the actual kickoff. We'll be talking a little bit of the MVP race. That's also a little controversial. It kind of has been a bit, a lot of talk there, which we'll get into here on the second or the last part of the second half of our NBA talk. And then we also will be talking a little bit of the WNBA and the Britney Griner situation in Phoenix Mercury. And then touching a little bit on NFL talk, the Commanders, Derek Carr news as well that has released this morning, and then a little bit of MLB with the season kicking off here. We still have opening day happening for some of those teams who were away and were traveling. So you ready to kick it off, Ed? We have a lot to cover.
Of course. Let's talk playoff basketball.
Yes, playoff basketball. As we mentioned that the play-in tournament has started, and that did start on Tuesday. That was yesterday. And the two teams that faced off were the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Brooklyn Nets, which the Nets did will go away with that win. And then we also had the LA Clippers facing off the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota, and the home team also took away that win, Ed. So a lot of great games that have been happening, and it's definitely cause for excitement. This is a little bit like a March Madness feel to it, don't you think?
Yes, I love playoff basketball, whether it is college basketball, as you mentioned, or the National Basketball Association. So we had two really great games last night, Joanna. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant had 59 of the Nets, 115 points, and they ran out to a 20-point lead after the first quarter. Joanna scored 40 in the first quarter, had Cleveland 40-20. You think, oh man, this game is over. Can Darius Garland and the Cleveland Cavaliers rally back and make a game out of it? They did. They lost by 7, but still, for them to move on, they vanquished. They got rid of the Cavaliers last night, and they move on to take on the Boston Celtics in the first round. So good win for Brooklyn, and also a really good win for the Timberwolves. They beat the Clippers last night, so they will face the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round starting Saturday afternoon. So 2 good home wins for both of those teams.
Yes, definitely. I had the Brooklyn Nets going and winning that game against the Cavaliers. I know that if Cleveland came back and would come in and win against the Nets, it wasn't going to be too much of a surprise. There were, it was still a good game. It was only I can't do math right now.
115, 108, 7 points.
Yeah, 7 points difference. So they were pretty matched up, with the exception of the field goal percentage, which Cleveland was a little bit more dominant in that. But even the rebounds, kind of close with the assists, blocks, steals. They had a kind of even match up there. The turnovers, I know that kind of took a little bit of a hit on both teams. They were pretty equal on that, but one was able to go ahead and capitalize on those turnovers more, because that can be a determining factor in your game, and if you can take advantage of those turnovers and being able to score. So, which Brooklyn Nets, I can't even speak this morning, Ed. My tongue is getting tied. But
it's
the
been
Brooklyn
that long,
Nets, I think it's the coffee, actually. The Brooklyn Nets were able to go ahead and just capitalize and come on, with Kyrie Irving back and being able to go ahead and make a nice little duo with Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant, we've seen, how he's been able to go out there on the court and dominate, and having some more of those 40+ point games, it only, seems fit. I don't think that Brooklyn Nets should have gone into that play-in situation. I think they should have been able to go ahead and go past that and just been able to clinch a playoff spot. But, we know that those dynamics and how that all turned out. But now that we can say that they are in.
Well, with everything that went on with them this season, Johanna, with the whole deal with James Harden and him not being happy there, him eventually moving on to the Sixers, and KD being hurt a good portion of the season, and then we know the biggest story of all, Kyrie Irving and his vaccination, that whole situation with that. There was so much drama and intrigue and just news every single day on this basketball team, Johanna. So for them to even just make the play-in tournament, yeah, you're right. This team, when it's really clicking, I mean, it could be a championship contending team, but there were so many other things, so many other factors surrounding this basketball team, Joanna, that kept them from being what they really, really should be, which is a championship contender. And we'll see what happens when they take on the Celtics. But last night, 33 assists on 45 made shots. KD, look at his stat line. He was 9 of 16, hit all 6 of his free throws, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 block shots. Kyrie, 12 of 15. Boy was balling last night, hit all 7 of his free throws, and he had 12 assists. So the guys were stepping up when they needed to. Andre Drummond had 16. Bruce Brown had 18. Nick Claxton off the bench had 13. So everybody was contributing to that victory because they needed all hands on deck, Joanna, to move on to take on Boston.
No, definitely. So I know that Boston Celtics and that Brooklyn Nets game is going to be off the hook, off the charts. So I that's all I'll say.
That's going to be a good series, yeah.
But moving on, we'll go ahead and come over to the LA Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, like you mentioned, Ed. That was also a pretty, good and a pretty close game. There was a little bit more of a back and forth, from the start of the game to the end of it. So Minnesota came up with that win, and they have, hold on.
Yeah, it was a good win. They won by 5, Joanna, even though Karl Anthony Towns had a horrible shooting night. He was 3 for 11. He struggled. 11 points. Anthony Edwards came up big, and D'Angelo Russell came up big. Like KD and Kyrie, they scored 59 points for their team to help them beat the Clippers, and Paul George had a great night. So they, just like the Nets did, they needed all hands on deck to come back and get that victory. I like the fact that they were very strong in the paint last night, Joanna. Outscored the Clippers 36-24 in the paint. So, if you can establish a low presence down in the middle, Joanna, you being a Suns broadcaster, you know exactly how important it is to get those points in the paint, get those high percentage shots, especially come playoff time, Joe.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You have to definitely have that presence, and that, performance in the paint can make or break your game. With field goal percentage, we have 74% with Clippers, having, being able to be effective there. We also have, how important the rebounds are, which is where Minnesota capitalized with 49 rebounds.
Yeah,
so those
they were plus 10.
determine your game your game factors,
Yep.
huge game factors for a team.
Yeah, when you're plus 10 on the rebound percentage, as far as the rebounding goes, because both teams, as you mentioned, shot about the same. Minnesota 43.4. This is how close it was. 43.4. The Clippers 43.6. So that pretty much washed both of the teams out because they both shot about the same percentages. So then it comes down to what are you going to do as far as assists and rebounds and turnovers. As you mentioned, turnovers are extremely crucial, especially come playoff time, because we know every single possession, Joanna, is a paramount concern for these basketball teams.
Yeah, and then that's definitely where it took the Clippers. It really hurt them with 17 turnovers. So you can't have that at all compared to this. Even still, Minnesota for having 11 turnovers, just a team having getting into double digits in their turnovers is not good. But Clippers, it's almost 20. That's just not good and unacceptable.
No, and 5 of them came from Reggie Jackson. That compounded with didn't have the best shooting night. He was 7 of 18. He had 17 points, but he had to take 18 shots to get 17 points, Joanna. So that was kind of counterproductive to what the Clippers were trying to do because he shot poorly.
Yeah. No, definitely. We know for the Clippers, Paul George, as we know, Paul George, he's gonna be your guy and your top scorer for the most part. So that's that was their guy for the Clippers. But for he scored just out of all of the players out on the court for last night. He was the one with the highest points scored. But for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards was your guy along with D'Angelo Russell, just 1 point of each other, with Edwards 30 points and Russell with 29.
And I like the fact that off the bench, the Timberwolves had 29 points. So their bench was very active. They came off. Malik Beasley led them with 12 points. Jaden McDaniels had 6. Jalen Noel had 3. And Naz Reid had 8. So everybody came off and did what they needed to do as far as contributing to that victory.
Yes, definitely. And we know when it comes to playoff contention, that's being able to go deep and being able to go ahead and have that performance coming off the bench. That's going to also be a huge thing, and how coming off the bench and that communication and that style of play, how it can go ahead and incorporate into what you already have going on. That's going to be a huge thing, because if your bench does not step up and you don't capitalize on that. You're not scoring the points, and let's say you only score 5 points coming off the bench, you can be in deep trouble.
And you use that word capitalize. The Timberwolves capitalized on second chance points last night. They were a +6 to what the Clippers did. They had 14 to the Clippers 8. So those 6 points in a margin of victory by 5, that's crucial to what they were able to do last night. Second chance points, energy, getting every single rebound, just going after every single loose ball that you could and get those second chance points. That helped them get that 5-point win last night.
Definitely. You have to go for those, look for those key pieces, those key factors for each team is going to be different. But those, that was one of the things that did help with the Minnesota Timberwolves coming away with that win. But we go on to tonight, Wednesday night tonight, and we have the Atlanta Hawks and the Charlotte Hornets facing off tonight in Atlanta. And then following that game, we have the San Antonio Spurs facing up the New Orleans Pelicans in New Orleans. So that's going to be another great matchup. What we have happening to those losers from the games will be facing off each other for spot number 8, who will then be facing the number 1 teams, which are the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat. And we will find that out. That game will take place on sometime Friday. I do not have the time. So that's still to be determined, dependent on who wins and so forth, and how the NBA decides to schedule that. But those 2 teams, the Suns and the Heat, will be the last 2 teams to know who their opponents will be.
Well, according to ESPN.com, it looks like the play-in for the 8th seed game, the Cavaliers are going to take on TBD. So they're going to take on is it the winner of Charlotte and Atlanta? Or the loser of Charlotte and Atlanta will take on the Cavaliers for the 8th seed.
Right, the loser.
Yes, okay. Mm-hmm. And so the loser of San Antonio and New Orleans will play the Clippers for the right to play the Suns.
Correct.
Got you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to get. I'm still this play-in tournament. This play-in thing is kind of crazy. It's kind of. I
Yeah.
love it, but it's kind of confusing at the same time until you really sit down and think. Okay, so this is how this thing works. Okay.
I know it took me a minute to just actually be able to go ahead and, okay, this is the scenarios, this is what happens, and all of that. It took me a couple of days to really, like, after looking at it, analyzing and everything, like,
Yeah.
okay, now this is what happens. At first, I was like,
I love it. It is just like the playing games for the college for March Madness. You have these playing games, and whoever wins, it's a different kind of scenario and a different kind of seeding in the way things work out as far as wins and losses. But I love it. It adds to the excitement of the NBA playoffs, and it gives these other teams that we're talking about another chance to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely.
It's awesome.
I'm so excited. Yeah, that's a little bit more excitement, and that's kind of like what the NBA is looking for, ways to go ahead and draw in more fans and get in more viewership too. So
okay, well, Joe, let me ask you, being a Suns broadcaster, who would you prefer that the Suns play in the first round? Of all the teams that you've seen, of all the teams you've seen the Suns play this year, who do you like coming? Who do you want coming out of that? Whatever scenario plays out.
Really, whatever scenario plays out, it's still gonna be. It's a tough one. It really is a tough one. But selfishly, the San Antonio Spurs, I think, would be a little bit of a better matchup. Even still, you have Popovich, Greg Popovich, which we know the great coach that he is. So still, San Antonio can throw you in for a little bit of a curve, and in some challenges. I think whoever they do phase, like as we've seen throughout the season, they get challenged. They've been challenged, whether it's the LA Clippers or it's the, of course, let's just say Golden State Warriors. If they do go and face up against them later in the playoffs, that's going to be, a good match. But the Minnesota Timberwolves or even like Memphis, a team like that can still put up, a little bit of a challenge and, scrappy team. But I would prefer, I'm going to go with San Antonio. I think they have a little bit more of an advantage and better for them to face off. But still, if they do end up facing, let's say, like the Clippers, that's going to be another close game. And they're going to definitely make them fight.
I would love to see a rematch of the playoffs, the playoff series they had last year against the Clippers. I'd love to see them play them. I mean, it'd be great for any one of those teams. But me personally, I like to see the Clippers take on the Suns again, because we knew how intense that series was last year. It was pretty crazy last playoff series.
Yeah, no, definitely it was, and that
was a fun series.
I really don't want the Suns going against Paul George.
No.
So. Yeah, it just depends which way to look at it. If you want to go for an exciting and like a duel type of, game and a face to face, you want the Clippers. But if you really want, to have an advantage over a team and be able to not have to really be too worried, then you want the San Antonio Spurs. So
Spurs or the Pelicans,
or the Pelicans, But yeah,
even though that's a really good up and coming young team. I love what Willie Green has done with the Pelicans in a short amount of time.
They are a really, really good team, and even the Suns, when they play them, they've had a little bit of their struggles playing the Pelicans.
Oh yeah, New Orleans plays them tough.
So either way, it's not going to be it's going to be a good series, whoever it is that they play, regardless. So
we'll see.
Yes, we will see. So let's go ahead and I want to take a few minutes to talk about the MVP, that NBA MVP. That's been a bit of a controversial back and forth, who deserves it, who deserves to be in that talk, in that race. So before I get into my thoughts, and we have a special guest and a surprise coming up here, hopefully soon. But Ed, that's been actually right on the money. So we have our awesome friend and amazing radio host over here from the Sports Cave. He is the Sports Cave, PLR. Hi, how are you? Happy Wednesday. If you can
What's
hear
up,
us.
bro?
Do I get to stroll? Do I have to stroll? Can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
hear you.
Can you guys
Yes.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Can you hear
sir.
us?
I want to see a stroll. I want to see a stroll. I want to see some strolling though first. I don't see any strolling on that other video.
What does that mean?
You know what it means, KSI.
Uh-huh.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
So you joined us in the perfect timing, PLR. So we're getting into our MVP talk. We want to spend a few minutes talking on that before we go on to the WNBA. So we have the standings, and they've kind of been a little bit fluctuating up into the when the season ended. But I want to go ahead and dive in with Devin Booker. I want to go ahead and just dive into that because he's really not going to have the MVP this season. So I want to get your thoughts on that because in my belief, he's more than earned it, and I've heard a lot of different thoughts and on that. So I want to go ahead and get your opinion on it. Why he's not, and do you believe that he should be an MVP candidate?
He is the MVP of the NBA. Really, just that simple. There's a lot of reasons why, and I believe it's why he doesn't get a lot of recognition along with a lot of the other Suns players. He's not TikTok. He's not YouTube-ish. He just plays basketball. And because of that, he's not flashy. He doesn't do a lot. You don't get a lot of the same standout type stuff. Like, for example, Ja Morant is an incredible player, incredible basketball player. But we see him doing two-hand blocks. We see him skying, ridiculous heights to get alley-oops. We don't see that with Devin. And so sometimes, my camera here, sometimes when you don't have YouTube, TikTok type moments, you're out of sight, out of mind. But I think the goalpost gets moved on the Suns a lot from the national media. And I go back with Booker from 2 years ago. When he's on a winning team, he's an all-star. Then his team wins. Well, he's an alternate. Then his team wins again. And, he's an injury replacement. Oh, okay. So then his team wins again. So finally he makes it as a pure nature. Monty Williams, by far the best coach in the NBA last year. You give it to Tibbs. Mikal Bridges is a top defensive player. He's not even on an all-defensive team. So I think with the Suns, the goalpost keeps getting moved. And I think the way they have to show people at this point for them to get the national media respect and not just what we see from covering them every single day and being at that arena, night in and night out, is they've got to win a championship. And once they win the championship, then I think some of the national recognition will come their way. And I really think that's gonna be what it takes to do it. I think Devin Booker is going to be a first-team All-NBA. I think Monty finally gets his Coach of the Year. I think that Mikal Bridges finally gets his Defensive Player of the Year. I think all those things happen. But the NBA sometimes is a we owed it to you already. So Embiid was probably owed already. Nikola was owed already. And I just think that the Suns have to do certain things to get on that national stage that maybe other teams didn't have to do or their players didn't have to do to get them there. But is he the MVP in my opinion? Yes, he is the MVP in my opinion.
I want to jump in there with that, with what you're saying being owed, because I think that Devin Booker is already owed. Why? Because he's been with the Suns in their struggling times. So he's been there. He's through the good and the bad. The bubble. And then being able to go ahead and then bringing Monty on, being able to go ahead and establish getting better as a player. Yes, he's not flashy, which I think that's coming into consideration. You look at all of these different aspects of what's an NBA player. It doesn't matter whether you're flashy or not. Are you being consistent? Are you there for your team? Are you in one of the things also that I've with being able to play with the Chris Paul and just, being not only analytics, but just, what you bring to the team. So he's already, I think Devin Booker is already owed. And one of the things that also I want to go back to one of the press conference that was said, and Devin Booker said it, is that this team deserves their flowers. They're not being given those flowers because they're being disrespected, plain out, time and time again. Now we have 3 seasons in a row where the Phoenix Suns are, a great team, and they've been able to go from a worst team in the NBA to being the best team in the NBA. So how is that recognized by, the players are already being recognized, and even, like John Morant saying that Devin Booker is an MVP and looking up to him as a player, just one of the many. So that's where I stand, and that's my opinion. But do you have anything to share, Ed, before we move on to the, on the conversation?
Yeah, I agree with brother Richardson that they get that respect by getting that chip. If they come out of this at the end of this playoffs tournament as world champions, you win 64 games this year, and Devin absolutely deserves to be the MVP. The brother's averaging 27 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, but he gets overshadowed by Embiid and Jokic and Giannis. But this brother definitely deserves MVP consideration. And the fact that it's been the culture and what this Phoenix Suns organization has had to struggle through over the last decade plus, with coach after coach, general manager after general manager, in and out of this place, a revolving door of management and players. And the fact that Devin, as you mentioned, Joe, decided to stick around through all of this. That brother could have rolled out years ago and been in New York or wherever. Any other team would have loved to have had Devin Booker, but he said, no, you know what? I'm going to stick here through the thick and thin, and I'm going to ride this thing out. And there, as Paul said, and you both, all three of us know, this is the best team in the NBA. They should win the world championship this year, and they will get that respect by hoisting that trophy, hoisting that Larry O'Brien trophy. Yes, let's keep our fingers crossed, Joanna, that you call a Suns NBA championship on your broadcast. But yeah, I agree, Paul. It will take them winning a championship for the national media and everybody to respect this basketball team, because they're still trying to live down the history that's preceded them over the last decade plus.
Yeah, one of the before we go on to our next, in the next thing here in the MVP talk, is one of the ways that I reference the Phoenix Suns. Unfortunately, is they're like the ugly duckling. Like no matter how good you do and what the good and the bad and everything and trying to earn that respect, you're still looked at or perceived as an ugly duckling, like you're not deserving of an MVP, of that respect, and etc. And that's the way that I look at it, and that's the way that, and throughout the Suns history, doesn't matter whether you go to a Western Conference champions or not, or even go to make an MVP Finals run, unless you do something to capitalize on that, you're always going to be perceived as that, unfortunately. And yeah, PLR is right.
But hold on a second though. The Suns are getting a lot of non-respect for a lot of good reasons though. So we got to be fair to this too. It's rare in the NBA that you go from that low where they were to the NBA Finals in a year. That's football and baseball. You don't do that in basketball. Usually you can see the process coming along. The Suns were actually fortunate, because if we really be honest about it, the year that they were in the bubble and they went 8-0 in the bubble, coming up to that, they weren't very good when that season first started under Monty, because it was a new coach. Everything was gelling together. That's when they had Ricky Rubio getting everyone in the right positions, right structure, right everything for the way a team should be organized. And then they got to the bubble and they showed out. So that's really what kick-started them. So there's a lot of national naysayers like, hey, we remember when this team last year wasn't that good. So I can understand them not necessarily in their flowers the first year. Last year is when I think they should have. This year is when I think people now should recognize how good this team is. But there were a lot of years, and I'm being honest, there were nights when we would cover Suns games where you're like, man, how are we going to talk about how they lost tonight before the game was even played? So they had a lot of those years. And remember, the only thing that separates a winner and a loser is teams that are losing shut players down. Teams that are winning at the end of the year rest players. There was a lot of years the Suns were shutting players down. they're finally in resting players at the end of the season, which is good. So I'm with you in that everything you and Ed said about where they are now, but they got to kind of redeem themselves. Because when Charles Barkley was here, I know, Johanna, you were young then, but when Charles Barkley
I remember
was here,
Charles Barkley.
Suns got a lot of love. That stadium was sold out. When Steve Nash was here, 7 seconds or less, that place was sold out and rocking. They fell off, and they let a lot of people down, a lot of fans down, and a lot of times you got to re-earn that trust. And I think that's where they are. Unfortunately, the national media don't see it.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and move on to who we have right now running in that running for the most valuable player. We have Nikola Jokic with the Denver Nuggets, Joel Embiid with the Philadelphia 76ers, Giannis Antetokounmpo with Milwaukee Bucks, Jason Tatum is at number 4 for the Boston Celtics, and we have Luka Doncic with the Dallas Mavericks. We had PLR drop off here, but Ed, out of these 5 great players, who do you think would be the MVP in your eyes for this season?
Well, every year you could say Giannis is up for the MVP because that guy is just an absolute freak of nature. That's why they call him the Greek freak, because what he does at his position, at his size, and as a human beings should not be able to do what he does athletically, Joanna. It's just what he does defies logic as far as human beings are concerned. But I think this may be the year for Joel to get his MVP. Joker got it, and I think Embiid has played his tail off this year. Again, you could always give it to Giannis, and Jason's played so well for Boston. We know how incredible that kid is out there back east, and Luka down in Dallas just continues to play his tail off as well. But I think this year it could probably go to Embiid. But yes, D Book needs to get some love. He needs to be in this consideration, in this conversation, because he's leading his team to the best record in the NBA, and he just plays consistently every single night. And it really does boggle my mind as to why Devin Booker is not getting this kind of love. I know Stephen A. Smith talked about it the other day, that Devin Booker is the most disrespected player in the NBA, and he is. For him to get snubbed for the last 2 years as far as being on the All-Star team, as far as not being a reserve and being on the All-Star team. I know there's so many talented guards in the NBA, especially in that Western Conference, Joe, but Devin has earned the right to be a starter on the All-Star team, and he has deserved the right to be in consideration for the MVP vote as we bring in Brother Richardson back in. So, bro, we're going over the MVP race. Who do you think when it comes to Embiid and Jokic or Giannis or Jason Tatum or our guy Luka down in Dallas or D Book? Who do you think is really going to come out with this? Oh, he dropped again.
Yeah, he dropped again.
He's got some bad Wi-Fi.
Yeah, he's having a little bit of a connection problem. So,
Joe, who do you think is going to come out as far as the MVP?
This is tough. It really is, because they're all deserving of it. I think it's going to probably come down to Joel Embiid or Giannis. Really, like Luka. He's another close runner in my eyes. Just with how he's played, and he's just also these players all consistent, showing up for their teams and what they've done. It's not an easy pick, Ed, at all.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think Embiid is going to win it this year. But that guy Giannis, that guy in Milwaukee, he is something special. He could win it every year. He could win it, Joanna, if he really wanted to. Yes,
I know he really, but I think I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid. As my one, my 1-2 is gonna be Giannis.
Yes.
For the MVP. It's just too close, and both of these are great players. Just depending on what you look at and everything, it's going to be a determining angle on this. But they're both great. They both play well. Their stats speak for it if you're looking at that analytical angle of it, and they both bring tremendous value to their teams.
Yep, that's my 1 and 1A too. Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and go into the WNBA. So we have, and I wrote a story on this, Ed, where we had the WNBA draft just the other night on Monday night, Monday afternoon, Monday night, depending on which coast you're in. And for the first time, the WNBA was made a statement, and the commissioner addressed it in her opening statement in the WNBA draft regarding Britney Griner and her arrest, her detention in Russia. So as we know, it's been really very close-lipped. Really not anyone, authorities or the organization with the Phoenix Mercury or even the league really mentioning anything. The only thing that the commissioner really said was that Britney Griner is safe and that WNBA's top priority is to bring her home safely. So, Ed, that now they detained or they extended her detention, at least that's what we know from Russian media and our authorities, at least through May 19th. The WNBA season starts May 6th. So this is going, on a long, to a very, very long process. And I know they're doing everything they can. They're not really speaking on anything the players, no one, again, very close-lipped. And everything it's coming through and that we are knowledgeable of is through the Russian media mostly. How do you think this will play out? And PLR is back and joining us. PLR, we're touching on the Phoenix Mercury and Britney Griner situation. So asking Ed what he sees coming out of this, and then I'll go ahead and go to you.
It's tough because they say it could go through at least May 19th. That doesn't mean she'll be home on May 19th or this will get resolved on May 19th. This could go longer than that. That's just the date that they have set, at least for right now, tentatively. It could go longer than that, which would obviously put the Mercury in a bad situation and put the WNBA in a bad situation because one of their top stars is there. The Mercury does not have their top star on their roster, even though I like the fact that they said the Mercury are going to pay Griner her salary, even though she's not going to be on the roster at that time. And she may or may not be on the roster the whole season, depending on when she gets released and she actually gets back home. But it's just tough, man. I feel for her. I know she's going through some tough times, and it's got to be really weighing on her. And of course, it's weighing on the WNBA family and the Mercury as well, and Britney's family as well. I just want this thing to get resolved as quickly as possible so we can get the sister home.
PLR?
I mean, it's an unfortunate event. I mean, there's really nothing else that can, be said. With the war going on, she probably picked, not that she picked it, but it's the worst possible time for something like this to happen, especially in a country where we're not at war against, but we're helping the enemy. So none of that is going good for, especially in a country that would love to make an example, out of an American. So all we really can do is keep our fingers crossed and hope the channel and the back channels, it works out. I mean, that's really all we can do and all we can hope for, because this is not one of those situations with the Ball brothers or LaJello Ball in China, where it's an individual instance that had to do with the kid and had to do with something that the president could go and smooth over. The president of Russia could give less than two good craps about what Biden is saying. This is a different situation. So hopefully she doesn't have to pay the price for this. Honestly, part of me, my question is it real what she set up? I mean, these are all questions that I think are fair questions. I mean, she's played in Russia before. So I think she would know the rules and something like that. You know what I mean? Is it something that she's done in the past and they let slide? Is it something she first tried? Is it something that she didn't even try at all and they're setting her up? These are all questions we have to have answered. But, I hate to say it like this, and it's still this from white men can't jump. But when you shooting at Ghana, it's their house, their rules. And when you're in this situation, they don't have to be nice or to be lenient or to say it was a mistake. They don't have to do that. And if anything, they're going to try to prove a point.
Yeah, just very unfortunate. And yes, we all have questions to, and those are some of those questions that we all have and we want answers to. And unfortunately, we won't get those answers, at least now. Hopefully we'll get some more of those answers, when she does return, and that she does return home safely, and seeing her home sooner rather than later. And so we did, and then we did have also the WNBA draft, like I mentioned earlier, where the Phoenix Mercury had 2 picks in that draft. We had Marcy Williams, who they drafted forward, and we also have Maya Dobson, another forward from Notre Dame, that is joining the organization. So PLR, what's your thoughts on having these 2 women joining a team, and a WNBA finals in a championship team?
I expect them, like any other team that drafts rookies, I expect them not to get a lot of playing time and to grow and learn. I mean, this team is already pretty much set when you have Britney Griner back. If you get her back, you have Diamond new to the team. You have the never getting old Diana Taurasi, Skylar Diggins. So if Cunningham is back, this team is already set to repeat. So you're not really looking for your rookies to do too much right now other than to learn and to grow in. The WNBA, you got to remember, they have a disadvantage because their players end a season to start a season. The NBA doesn't have that. Same with coming from Europe. For a lot of these players, they're still in Europe playing basketball right now. So they're coming off a season to get rested for a season. So we'll see what happens, in the long run here. But I don't expect much from rookies. I expect them. You know what I expect them to do? Carry bags and buy dinners.
And learn
a lot.
Yeah.
And what better players could they learn from all the guys from all the ladies that Paul mentioned?
Yeah, the top caliber players, definitely. And just want to touch, yes, PLR mentioned, and one of the reasons Britney Griner was in Russia is, playing overseas. A lot of our WNBA players play overseas because their salaries in the WNBA, it's not enough, or, they're underpaid, which is another, conversation and we can get into. But that's, why we have that occurring, and players just playing back-to-back seasons where they're, not only in the US, but in another country. But coming back to the WNBA and the draft, the WNBA draft was the most viewed since 2004, with 403,000 viewers, up 20% from last year, 2021. So that is great that they're getting, more viewership, and they're looking to go ahead and grow that as well. And the WNBA also announced that more WNBA games will be broadcasted on television this season. So we've asked, the fans have asked, and they're getting what they wanted, and hopefully there'll be more light on the WNBA, more support, of course, as we've seen our NBA players supporting the league. And from that, we hope that they can also have a bump in their salaries as well. We know that what they're getting is not enough.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ed.
No, go ahead, bro. I was just gonna say that's great. More coverage hopefully means more revenue for the ladies, so they can make more money, and the league continues to stay viable. We know the NBA is one of their biggest backers, clearly, and that's great that the men are really supporting them, and that's great that the coverage is increasing.
Yeah, and I'm with you. This is an economics thing more than anything else. The more eyes, the more you can sell to advertisers, the more you get advertisement money, the higher the salaries can go. So it has to go in that order. And it's unfortunate, but the viewership has to be there for you to be able to sell advertisers, because fans really get on my nerves with, especially in big sports like football and basketball, when they go, well, we pay your salaries. No, you don't, buddy. You put extra money in the owner's pocket because it's television revenue. That's what drives salaries. So they need that television revenue. When you go in and you go for, $12 beer night or $15 or $30 parking night, that's not going to the players. That's going to the owners. So I love when fans hit you with that. We pay your salary. Or you know what? We just won't show up. Well, then turn your TV off. Don't buy Coke. Don't buy Pepsi. Don't buy Viagra. Don't buy none of that stuff because that's how they're making their money, by the ads. So if you're gonna boycott, be educated with your boycotts and know what you're talking about. But we've got to get the viewership up. It's a great game. So, but people have to be introduced to the game. So the draft and learning players is how you fall in love with something. You usually don't just fall in love with the game without knowing faces to the game. So the WNBA has great ambassadors. I mean, Taurasi, Bird, Skylar, these are all great ambassadors to the game. So hopefully they become household names, and that's how you get the more money.
Yes, and that's totally it, because that's how I fell in love with the WNBA and women's basketball and the Phoenix Mercury, is just learning and viewing, getting to know these wonderful players and their their game and etc. So, but going back to ownership and tickets and sales and stuff. Well, there's a little controversy in the news that's hit with the NFL and the Washington Commanders, and are in the hot seat with that. So it has come to light that the Washington Commanders, they've pocketed money. Let's just put it that way. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's still, there's been some news and things like that rolling out, but Ed, they've broken major loss here.
Oh yeah, if it does come to light that they did that, it says they were alleged that they may have retained as much as $5 million in deposits from approximately 2,000 customers, failed to refund security deposits, concealed revenue, and as you mentioned, they allegedly cooked the books. Had two sets of books, one that they revealed to the NFL and one that they held to themselves for owner Dan Snyder to hold close to his heart. So whatever this investigation ends up revealing, if that does come to light that they did cook the books and have two sets of books, then that's they're going to get hit really hard on that. And that's another black eye when it comes to the Washington Commanders under the ownership of Dan Snyder.
Yeah, and PLR, the Washington Commanders are just digging themselves in a deeper hole coming off of that, whole, scandal, sexual, scandal and all of that. We have now this occurring, like, I don't know, are the Commanders going to get any better in how they're going to be able to go ahead and turn this around? Like, are the Commanders maybe even at a risk of, just the Washington not even having a team because all of this that's occurring, legal trouble after legal trouble?
Well, let's start with the last thing you said. No. Washington Commanders are a money driver. They will not leave Washington. They will have their football team in that city for as long as there's an NFL. So they're not moving. So let's take that one off the table because they make too much money for the NFL. To answer it like this, if you're a thief and you lead something and you're in charge of a company, don't you think that who are you going to hire? More thieves? If you're a thief, you hire a thief. If you're a criminal, you hang with criminals. If you smoke weed, you know people that smoke weed. If you do hard drugs, you know people that do hard drugs. You don't walk up to an average Joe and say that don't do any of those things and say, hey, do you know where I can get a score? Because they're not going to know. So criminals run together. That's life. It's not just criminals. I smoke cigars. You know who I know? People that smoke cigars because we're in a same community. So it's the same thing. I don't expect anything from Washington as long as Daniel Snyder owns the team. It appears from the outside looking in, he's not a good dude. He's just not. He sweeps his dirt under the rug, but he forgets to lift the rug and sweep again. It just appears that he's just a bad dude. And when I say bad, I mean coming from a bad place in his heart and his soul. It just doesn't seem like he's there. The only thing the NFL can do is have owners vote to get him to sell his team. Now, I'm a believer that when you force an owner to sell their team, did you really punish them? Other than ego, because they love their ego and they love the power that comes with that ego. But when you put $5 billion in someone's pocket, are you really punishing them? You know what I mean? So yeah, you're taking away something they want, you're taking away something they love, but they still get a punitive amount for doing it. It's not like when you're a kid and your parent tells you not to do something and they take away your video game and now you have nothing. They don't take away your video. They don't take away your Xbox and say, well, here's a PlayStation until you get your privilege back with the Xbox. They say, give me your Xbox and go sit down somewhere. Well, in the NFL and NBA and Major League Baseball, when they take your team, they say, give me that Xbox, but here's $1,200. There's no real punitive damage to it. But the NFL owners, like in any league, have a hard time voting other owners out. Because when they start doing that, that finger can turn around in a few years and point back to them, and some of their dirt comes up, and they don't want to be voted out. That's why owners that do crap stick around longer than they should. He will be there, and I believe he'll be there because what has he done? What has he done? We've got to be honest in this world. I'm sorry. We've got to be honest. He hasn't insulted the right or the wrong group of folks yet. He's cooked books, and he stole money. He'll get fined. They'll move on. It's just that simple. I mean, go back to the NFL, Ed. Think about it. When Gruden got caught, they didn't care that he talked about people of color. He was going to go to sensitivity training. But when more and more came out, then that's when he got in trouble. You have to really crap on the floor to get kicked out of this league as an owner. And cooking books ain't really one of them just yet. I got to prove me wrong on that, NFL.
Yeah, that really is a bad look. But as you mentioned, Paul, at the end of the day, the Washington Commanders is one of the major money makers. They're one of 32 NFL teams, and they're making the NFL a lot of money. They are in the nation's capital. So that team, as you mentioned, that team is not leaving the DMV. They're not leaving my home area. That's not even on the table, like you mentioned, Paul. There's no reason. There's no way the Commanders move. They could have the owners vote to have him removed or have him sell the football team. That would be a worst case scenario. But as Paul mentioned, they'd probably give Mr. Snyder a real fine. They've overpassed that discretion, come out, and they just can continue to keep business moving.
Yeah, just unfortunate, just the whole situation and that
the whole
like PLR
optics
said,
of it, Joanna. The whole optics, the whole look of it just doesn't look good for the league in itself.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that it's not good at all. And unfortunately, like PLR said, is that, unless that's probably going to come down to worse, and it's just not, it's not fair, and more should be done to punish, people as they do, stealing, that's just unacceptable and should not stick around and should clean, in my opinion, be cleaning house. But we'll just see how this unfolds further, and we'll just keep a close eye on it. But to wrap up the show, we did have opening week here with MLB, and we have a full MLB season, pretty much everything going back to normalcy for MLB, if you want to say that. Just the league launching the season, a week than expected. So we have teams that have played pretty well, and then we have others that are not so well. Unfortunate for the Diamondbacks, they are 1-4. They're actually playing at the moment. But some of those teams that we have playing fairly well are the Houston Astros, which the Diamondbacks are playing today. We also have the Nets that are 4-2. We have the Chicago White Sox, PLR, your guys, your dudes, they're 3-1.
You mean the World Series winner? This year's World Series winner? All right.
Yeah. Well, we heard it here first and
okay.
Introduce him right now.
His prediction, and we have Tampa Bay also 4-1 here. So how do you guys feel about having baseball back, PLR?
It's great. The Sox are good and the Cubs suck. All is right in the world. Ed?
I'll second that, but it is great to have it back. It took a while with the lockout and everything, but we had a shortened spring training. which sucked. It would have been nice to have some more games out here in Arizona and in Florida, but we got baseball rolling. The Diamondbacks have only scored 12 runs in 5 games. Great start.
And how many did they score in the first game?
How many did they score? 2.
It
2?
was a walk-off.
Oh.
So they're not good. They're not going to be good. Listen, I like the Diamondbacks a lot. But we have to be real. They brought back a batting order that had one hitter hit over 290, and that was Marte. That was it. Everybody else hit 260, 240, 220, 230, 270. You expect that to be the same? So let me ask you guys a question. Do you expect 100 degrees in Arizona in August?
Yes.
At least one day. You know why?
Yeah.
Because it's been like that every year for the past 300 years. But the Diamondbacks expect guys that hit 220, 260 to all of a sudden come back and do enough. That makes no sense. But White Sox are going to win World Series.
I can't give you my World Series winner yet. I don't know. Not the Diamondbacks, I will tell you.
Paul's already giving you his.
Take them a while to get back there. But I don't know. I have some time to think on that.
Make a decision. Don't live on the fence. Don't wait until a team is like 20-3 and then you come out and say, live on the fence. Go for it. That's kind of you need to buy a dog because you sound real scared.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. Ed, do you have your World Series winner picked out already?
Joe, if you believe in your Red Sox, if you believe they're going to win the World Series, then say it.
Say it. Say something. Don't
Something.
take the easy road. You're taking the easy road.
you can look at the Astros and say, man, they're 4-1. They started off so strong. They could get back to the World Series and win it again. Sure.
But they can also be a team that started off not great and then turn it around and end up being World Series winners.
You know who Johanna's being at? That person that waits till the first round of the NCAAs and then picks the teams.
Yeah. Oh, here's my teams.
Oh, goodness sake.
Of course, you could always play safe and say, oh, the Giants could win it. The Giants could get to the World Series again. The Dodgers could win the World Series again. Joanna, stick to your convictions. If you say the Red Sox are going to win it, then stick to your baseball team.
Honestly,
Paul's
I
already
don't
done
know. I honestly don't know. I can't. I haven't thought about that.
So you're not diehard Red Sox. You're not diehard Red Sox Nation then.
And it's not even being diehard Red Sox Nation. It's just pick someone.
Yeah.
Pick something. You're the true baseball person out of the three of us. And you don't have two teams that you would speculate?
Yeah, Joe, this is what?
This is your wheelhouse.
This is your baby. I mean,
Okay, I'm going to give you two teams. Houston Astros and who's my other one?
You like that Mets rotation?
And San Diego Padres.
There it is. Wow. Took a lot of duress, Ed. Had to put her under the fire to get 2 picks.
Goodness. Ed, your turn.
What did I say? Oh, I said the Astros, and I'm going to Giants again. I think the Giants are going to go to the World Series again. They're going to go this year.
Okay. All right.
It's going to be the Giants and the Astros.
Full disclaimer, this may change later in the season.
Sox and Dodgers.
Ooh. That'd be a good series.
I like it.
All home games at Ebbets Field.
And PLR will be the first one there.
I will. See, and what? You know what? Why do we have to do all that just to get her to make up her mind? What's up with that? Did you congratulate Ed too? By the way,
I did.
Yes,
K.A. Psi. 5 new
I
pie.
died.
K.A. Psi. How's it feel, bro?
Feels
How's
good
it
to be in
feel?
the D9. I love it.
Okay, so can I clean something up real quick, Joanna?
Go ahead.
I don't know what a D9 is.
Neither do I.
Bruh, you're an alpha. You know what the D9 is.
No, I know the Elite 8. I know there's us, there's you, there's Omegas, there's Sigmas, and then on the ladies' side, there's AKAs, there's Deltas, Sigma Gamma Rose,
SG Rose, yes.
and SG Rose. I'm forgetting something. I know the Elite Eight.
Who are you forgetting? The Iotas?
The who?
Iotas?
Never heard of them.
Oh.
See, I've been in this now for over. I'm over 30 years in, and so I know the Elite Eight. I don't know the other one, and I'm on live radio saying I don't know. I treat that like a Sasquatch until I see one. I don't believe it. So congratulations, brother. Welcome to the Elite Eight. That journey is a good journey. You will absolutely love it. Enjoy.
Thank you, bro.
No
now
doubt.
We just got to get Johanna on one of the D9s. I'm saying D9. You say Elite Eight.
It's Elite Eight. What sounds more special to you, Johanna?
Elite
Eight.
The other one I have.
Yeah.
No knowledge of. Still don't. I know you tried educating me, Ed, but still.
Well, will she make a good AKA SG Row? What do you think? Will Johanna make a good? What sorority's best for her?
Here's the thing. You know what? I never do that. I always say, what does your personality mesh with the people that you're around and surround you? Like I could honestly, your personality has always said Noop to me. Always. So I could see that 100%. Same with your line, with your LB. With your LB.
Joe Cherry.
My man. He's my man, 100 grand. So I just think you fit into what your calling is. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard for me to say. You fit into what your calling is. And so you have to see. The one thing I will say about the Great Eight is at the end of the day, we're all good for the community and for what we do and for what we strive to be as better men and better women on this planet. So I think that more importantly is the biggest thing.
It is about serving the community and blessing others.
Yeah. So Ed just gave you his.
Before any of that happens, though, I need to finish my college degree, so we can't get ahead of ourselves.
06.
All right. Well, awesome stuff here with you guys.
I've been in for a week. Paul, give me a week. I've been a Kappa for a week. You've been in 30 years.
Step it up, Ed. Come on. Slacking.
May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 32 years.
Wow.
Nice.
32 years? Jeez.
I'll have to remember that and send you a congratulations, and maybe we can do a cigar.
What number were you on the line, Paul? I was 9 club. What were you?
Deuce, get loose.
Oh, the deuce. Okay.
Yes, sir. Deuce, get loose. Took the fire quick.
Yes, you did. Yes. You're around the 8. So, you.
All right, guys. We're at the end of our show.
Yeah,
I know we can keep talking about
Greek life
this,
all night. Yes.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. PLR, where can our awesome people find you?
1:00, the Cave Show, every day. You get us on Twitter at the Sports Cave, Caves with the K, the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, and then you get me directly on Twitter at PLR on Sports. So, and you see I'm wearing the colors because we got practice tonight. I always got a pub. My Golden Knights, every chance I get the black and gold colored Golden Knights basketball program.
Awesome.
Go Suns.
Wear it well.
Go Suns. Go Suns.
Yes. Go Suns. Come on. Bring it home. All right. Yes. Suns Day on Sunday. I like to call it. Ed, where can our people find you?
Of course, on Twitter at EdCole43, IG at Edward Cole 301, and on Facebook, Edward Cole. That's it, right? Yeah, that's it.
Is that it? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, you all can find me at both Instagram and Twitter at J-Rosalye. That's JROSALYE. You can find Inside Sports Network on Instagram at Inside Sports Net and on Twitter at Inside Sports _. And then make sure you also check out our website at insidesports.net and make sure you just download our podcast show from wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Until next time, everyone, thank you for listening in. This was Inside Sports Talk. Oh,
You guys were the first. You guys were the first. I'll give you that, Paul.